Find the difference by hand, then use a calculator to check your work. So again, we're being asked to find the difference. So we know that we're going to be dealing with a subtraction problem. And as we've been talking about in this section, instead of thinking about subtracting, we're just going to go back to our rules for addition. And anytime we see subtraction for now, we're just going to be thinking about add the opposite. So let me make that note, add the opposite. So instead of opposite, sorry about that. So instead of thinking 3 minus negative 9 for our first example, we're going to be doing adding the opposite. So our first number is going to stay the same. We're still going to use a 3, but now instead of subtracting, the subtraction is going to become addition. And we're going to add the opposite of whatever it was that was being subtracted. Well, what was being subtracted was negative 9. Its opposite is positive 9. So 3 plus 9 we know is 12. Okay. Now that might seem a little bit strange to think that subtracting a negative number is the same thing as adding. But if we think about money, if we have $3 in our account and then the bank calls us and said, oops, we made a mistake, we need to take back that $9 deposit that we thought you made, if they're going to take back, so that's like subtracting, a $9 withdrawal, so that's kind of like taking back negative 9, well, they would end up adding that money back into my account, so we would end up with that 3 plus 12. Okay, so again, think about money to help you sort of sort out what's going to be going on with these problems. For our next problem, negative 4 minus negative 8, we'll take the same approach in terms of adding the opposite. So we start with negative 4. Instead of subtracting, we're going to add the opposite of what was being subtracted. Negative 8 was being subtracted, so I'm going to add positive 8. Negative 4 plus 8, well, the signs are different, so we need to take the difference. The difference of 8 and 4 is 4, and we keep the sign of the number with the larger absolute value, which was the positive 8. So my final answer will be positive 4. And I don't need to write the plus, but that's certainly not a bad idea to do that. So now let's just double check our work on the calculator because that was the second part of the directions. So let me bring the calculator over here. So in our first problem we were being asked to do 3 minus negative 9. When you're working with your calculator, remember that subtraction is this button over here with the other operation sign, so with the add and subtract, multiply and divide. Down here is the negative sign. Okay, and I accidentally pressed that, so let me just clear out my display. So our first problem, we had 3 minus negative 9. So we're going to enter in 3, and then I'm going to subtract. That's what I want to do there. And now I'm going to enter in negative 9. Now we could certainly put this in parentheses, just like it is written in the problem. 3 minus negative 9 with parentheses around that, and we end up with positive 12, just like we did when we came up with it by hand. We can also enter this in without the parentheses, and the calculator will still understand what we're doing. 3 minus negative 9. Notice this time we didn't put in any parentheses, and we're still going to come up with positive 12. Now to check our other problem with the calculator, negative 4 minus negative 8. We're going to do negative 4, so we're going to use the negative sign. Negative 4 minus negative 8. And again, we have the option now of either using the parentheses or not. I'm going to go ahead and use the parentheses on this one, even though I wouldn't have to. Negative 4 minus negative 8. I'm putting my negative 8 into parentheses just like it was in the original problem. And when I enter it in, I see that, yeah, sure enough, I come up with positive 4. And so that confirms the answers that I came up when I was working these by hand.